Hello, I'm Lee James, host of Sports World on the BBC World Service. For the best of previews to the sporting weekend, listen to George Addo Jr. on the Locker Room on Joy 99.7 FM.
Live on radio, live online. This is the Locker Room on Joy 99.7 FM with George Addo Jr.
The sporting weekend begins with the ongoing African Women's Cup of Nations, and the Black Queens are at a KZB in dire need of 3 points and endless permutations to avoid the group stage exit as hosts.
Give up one effect that you have bring in the team, what you have brought. Correct what you have brought to the team. These people are listening, so that's why I'm saying those who are going to write exams will impede, please. What you have brought. Is that what you mean by tactical indiscipline? I want you to consult your tactical dictionary again. When we talk of, listen to me, you use the word wrongly. I want to correct you. I have not ever said anywhere that they are not adapting to any tactical play that I'm teaching. I have never said it. That's what we are shaping them for the tournament. They have another match, and we want to cite them, prepare them very well for the other match.
Black Queens face Group A leaders Cameroon in a must-win encounter later at the Crossport Stadium as Mali look to qualify with a win over the vanquished Algeria in the competition. We preview all games to come, including Group B, which has Zambia and South Africa hoping to clear the lines. More women football to savor this weekend, and so far the Black Maidens seem to be very much on course to make the semi-finals after a hat-trick of wins in the group phase of the ongoing Under-17 Women's World Cup in Uruguay.
To top up the goals so that I can stay free and say that maybe I'm top now, because any other player can catch up with me now. So I think me not utilizing maybe the last match chances has made me be in pressure now, because I have to top up the goals. Maybe
at the end of the tournament, one of them is winning the Goal Queen Award. So they are also focused to ensure that by end of the tournament, they also achieve something. All that is left now is for me as a coach and my assistants to make sure that we also map a strategy to stay away from defeat.
We preview the Ghana-Mexico clash to come on Sunday and 3 other quarter-final clashes. English Premier League will be received on its return with a heated London derby that will quite simply answer the question, who has made much progress this season?
Good effort, and then the following has been put home by 1 point on only his second ever Premier League start. The young Argentinian has given Tottenham the lead.
It's going to be Alonso over the wall and in! Wonderful free kick for Chelsea! Brilliant web moment, not for Tottenham, for Chelsea. Pedro now on the left-hand side, through to Alonso. Alonso in space, shoots, it's straight through Lloris, into the goal, and Chelsea lead by 2-1. Alonso scored twice, and Chelsea are beating Tottenham at Wembley, 2-1.
But he squeezed the cross in, Harry Kane! And the man for the London derbies for Tottenham Hotspur.
Chelsea Spurs will headline the EPL fixtures this weekend, but we talk about Sarri's defense and how to fix it. Manchester United are up against Crystal Palace. Watford hosts Liverpool, and leaders Manchester City travel to West Ham. We have a preview of all games with special focus on Atletico Madrid-Barcelona clash in La Liga and around Europe with key games to come. Head to our Facebook page, joy/99.7, our WhatsApp line 0244340437, or tweet at us at JoySportsGA to join the conversation. We will be in Abu Dhabi for the final Formula One race of the year, and we'll have a closer look at the looming crisis for the Cleveland Cavaliers in basketball. You are listening to The Locker Room and Joy 99.7 FM. Hello from me, George Addo Jr., and welcome to Preview Friday. It's good to have you join us. You can get onto our WhatsApp line now, 0244340437, as you try to contribute to all that we've got for you this afternoon. A huge discussion on the African Women's Cup of Nations here on the show. And you know the Black Queens are in action in a few hours as they try to get 3 points, all important, and of course try and get the permutations right to qualify for the semi-final of the ongoing competition. That's all to come here on the show. We'll get into the analysis with what's expected with the return of club football this weekend. We know the English Premier League is big. Chelsea up against Spurs is a headliner. We know Liverpool away to Watford, Manchester City will all be in action, as well as Manchester United. So we'll go first for the Joy Sports BBC two-way series. I had a great chat with Mas Faruqi. We'll enjoy that, and when I come back, we'll deal with the other issues. Thanks for your time this weekend as we welcome club football, but one really on international football, and Germany seem to be struggling even after words of encouragement and improved performances somewhat from Joachim Löw's men. Their 2-2 draw with the Netherlands has put him back under pressure. Is Germany in dire need of a change of manager?
You're right. The performances haven't been good, haven't they? The performances at the World Cup were terrible. They were the defending champions, weren't they, going into the tournament in Russia a few months ago, and they were knocked out, dumped out at the group stage. And the performances and the results since then in the friendlies and the Nations League haven't been good at all, have they? They won't be among the top seeds for the qualifying draw for the European Championship because they've been relegated from the top tier of the Nations League. So they're now in the second set of seeds. That draw takes place at the beginning of December. But that really is astonishing, really, when you think about the fact that Germany only won the World Cup 4 years ago, that they're not amongst the top European seeds. So what has gone wrong? You're right. Whatever it is, Joachim Löw doesn't seem to be able to get the best out of these players at the moment. And certainly when we've been speaking to journalists, football journalists in Germany, they say the problems started before the World Cup, when Joachim Löw was offered a new long-term contract before the team and the squad flew out to Russia for the World Cup. Since then, he's been locked into a long-term deal. The ideas and the way that his team seems to be playing, well, he seems to have run out of ideas, doesn't he, really? He doesn't seem to be picking the right players. Remember, he left Leroy Sané, who played so wonderfully for Manchester City last season, and indeed this season. He left him out of his World Cup squad, which was certainly a surprise for a lot of people. And some of the decisions he made just don't seem to be paying off. So unfortunately, you're right, I think, George. I think they do need a change of manager, but they've locked Joachim Löw into this long-term contract, so I think they're going to struggle to be able to get rid of him.
Club football next, and let's begin with Chelsea, who are scheduled for a fierce London derby later on Saturday. Sarri has had great effect on this team, but admittedly, defence and attack have been the bane. Is there anything the Italian can do to make his team stronger?
Yes, you're right, George. I mean, Maurizio Sarri has had a wonderful effect on this side, hasn't he? Admittedly, he inherited a very, very good side, actually, when he took over at the beginning of the season, when he came over after he was manager of Napoli. But in particular, he's had players like Eden Hazard to rely on, who really has been one of the informed players in the English Premier League, hasn't he, in the last few months. But he's been linked with moves away from Stamford Bridge, so it'll be interesting to see whether, in fact, he will remain at Chelsea until the end of the season. Admittedly, some of their performances, certainly the one against Everton in the last couple of weeks, their last match in the Premier League, which was really, really stuttering 1-1 draw, actually, not very impressive at all. When you look at some of those performances, they haven't been great, but they're still unbeaten in the league and they're still competing at the top of the table. So I really think that if Sarri can get over this kind of dip in form, really prove his worth as a manager, I think that Chelsea will still be able to be competing in the English Premier League title race until the end of the season.
Let's jump into Manchester United's camp then. They're up against Crystal Palace this weekend. But how much of pressure is back on Jose Mourinho after his side got outclassed by Manchester?
Yes, you're right, George. Jose Mourinho's side really were outclassed, weren't they, in that Manchester derby? I know they scored a late goal late on, but Manchester City really didn't look like they were going to lose that game. They completely overwhelmed Manchester United for big periods of that match. And United were really outclassed, which I think, to be fair, a lot of us were expecting them to be, certainly the way the sides have been playing so far this season. But I think Mourinho has managed to stave off some of the pressure, certainly, because of his team's performance in the Champions League in their last match a few weeks ago against Juventus, when they had that unexpected win over Juventus, which I really don't think anybody was expecting them to have, certainly when they conceded first in that match. So I think although there has always been as a consistent level of pressure on Mourinho this season at the moment, I don't think that there's immediate cause for him to be replaced at United. I think he does still certainly have a bit more time. I think certainly against Palace, he'll be hoping that his side will be able to put in a good performance and get the 3 points on Saturday.
Right, so Manchester City, Arsenal and Liverpool are all in action this weekend. What will be worth noting in these games?
Well, I think what's interesting about all three of these sides, of course, is that they all will have had players on international duty out and about travelling around the world. So it'll be very interesting to see which players maybe might have picked up a little injury or a little knock, who might be tired from their international matches that they've played. So it'll be interesting to see how the players respond. Manchester City, though, well, they're Manchester City and Liverpool, they're two of the three unbeaten sides in the league, aren't they, along with Chelsea? So I think they certainly will be expecting that they should be able to get the 3 points when they travel, Manchester City that is, to West Ham United. It'll be the first time that they will play against their former manager Manuel Pellegrini, who obviously brought them great success when he was in charge at City, winning them the Premier League title. Liverpool, well, they travel to Watford as well. Watford have been playing some very entertaining football this season, haven't they? I'm hoping for lots of goals in that one, but I think that Liverpool will probably end up with that one with the win. And Arsenal, will they play on Sunday against Bournemouth? Again, I'm expecting a very entertaining game, this one as well. Both sides playing very attacking, entertaining football this season. Arsenal, a very different proposition, aren't they, under Unai Emery this season since he took over from Arsene Wenger. But Bournemouth, they're defying the critics, doing so well so far. Eddie Howe really performing well with little resources with his small club Bournemouth. And I think, again, there could be lots of goals in this one. Arsenal, though, I think will expect to end that one on top.
Well, the BBC's Mars Faruqi there with the Joy Sports BBC two-way series. So, yeah, we're also looking forward to how Claudio Ranieri is going to start there with Fulham. They're up against struggling Southampton. That's another good game. Around the world, yes, in Europe, there are great games to look forward to. There's Atletico Madrid up against Barcelona there. And I know there's Inter Milan up against Roma in Italy. Atletico Madrid and Barcelona in Spain. Joy Sports' Moses Yabwa has been putting together the key games to chase this weekend. Let's go for that.
Third will host first in La Liga on Saturday night as the Spanish champions Barcelona travel to the Wanda Metropolitano to take on Atletico Madrid in one of the blockbuster fixtures of the 2018-2019 season. Incredibly, not since a 2-1 success at the Vicente Calderón more than 8 years ago have Atletico overcome Barcelona in the league, with the Catalan Giants winning 12 of their last 16 top-flight fixtures. Over the years, these two historic clubs have played out some enthralling matches, from multiple goal thrillers to tense nail-biters, and the football world will be expecting a deja vu this weekend. Real Madrid will be looking for their 5th straight win in all competitions when they travel to Eibar on Saturday afternoon. Juventus hosts Spal at the Allianz Stadium on Saturday, hoping to open up a 9-point lead at the top of Serie A. Massimiliano Allegri's side are unbeaten in the league, dropping just 2 points in the campaign thus far. Meanwhile, Spal sit 15th in the table, and a shock win against the Bianconeri could potentially see them move up to 12 before Sunday's fixtures. Having already lost James Rodriguez to ligament tear, Bayern Munich are now sweating on the fitness of star striker Robert Lewandowski ahead of welcoming Fortuna Düsseldorf to the Allianz Arena on Saturday. After ruthlessly dispatching Bayern Munich prior to the international break, Marco Reus and his Borussia Dortmund band of Bundesliga leaders hit the road to take on Mainz this weekend. PSG have been outstanding this season with 39 points gained from a possible 39, and they should be on course for 42 as Toulouse will travel to the capital with low spirits ahead of this one. Crystal Palace's record against Manchester United is absolutely awful, as they have never won a Premier League match against United. The Eagles have also lost 11 trips to Old Trafford on the bounce and come into this game having lost 3 league away games on the trot. So Jose Mourinho and his charges can count on history to claim all 3 points at home. It's a strange time to be a Tottenham fan right now. They continue to await the delayed opening of their new stadium, and for the first time in years find themselves somewhat frustrated with how their talented team are performing. However, despite these frustrations, they are still seeing their team get results in the Premier League, and their 9 victories so far is enough to put them just 5 points adrift of the leaders. Chelsea have no such concerns. The Blues have already qualified for the Europa League knockout rounds and are a hair's breadth away from topping the group, so the entirety of their focus can be placed on this potentially crucial Premier League tie in a Saturday late kickoff clash. Elsewhere, leaders Manchester City travel to West Ham and Watford host Liverpool.
Moses Yeboah with what to look forward to in club football and around the world. Now that's great stuff, but we have to now take a short trip to Uruguay. And we know Ghana's Black Maidens look forward to making the semi-finals of this year's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, having suffered quarter-final eliminations in the last two appearances. Now, the Black Maidens will play the Mexican counterparts in the quarterfinals on Sunday, and they need to get this working out there. Let's get a bit of perspective right now. What's happening with the Maidens, who are definitely flying compared to what their bigger sisters are doing, the Black Queens. And we'll be talking about that shortly. Abigail Senasosu, thank you very much for joining me in studio.
Thank you for having me, George.
And it's good to be talking about the Black Maidens before the Black Queens. I mean, no disrespect.
A good feel before the Navy one.
Well, yes, I think it's just right to say that. We've seen the team play a lot of power play on the pitch, wonderful performances so far. But can you say it's all because the opposition in the group have not been that strong?
No, I would say that because we have a very good manager who understands how to deal with women and women football in general. One thing we're also lacking when it comes to the Black Queens, and has been a topical issue over the week. And so I think that Evans Zadute has had his head on and knows what he wants to do with the Queens. Let's look at this, George. We are used to making history at this tournament, but this time I think is a good one, because when you look through all four groups, we have qualified with 9 points. We are the only country to have done that.
That's why I was just thinking, you played New Zealand, New Zealand, you played Uruguay, you played Finland. And I'm looking at the quarterfinal lineup. We've got Spain, we've got Korea, you've got Germany, you've got Mexico, you've got like a step up, honestly.
So if we are thinking that the other countries are better, they could have actually got the 9 points themselves. But if you are qualifying with 5 and I'm qualifying with 9, on paper, clearly I came a more determined side, a more focused side, and I think that is what is keeping them going. They play as a unit, and it helps them. They play in defense together, in attack together, and maybe Mukama is the one getting or being able to bang all the goals as many as she has done. But I think that the others are really helping her. Maybe Zenima and the others are doing some good work in there to make sure she gives the final delivery, and she's doing it so well. So for me, I don't think that we should downplay the opponents we have played. They came in strongly as much as they could. If you watched our game against New Zealand, we all knew they were going to pose some threats. We saw and we conquered them. So I think that we should cut the maidens some slack and let them enjoy what they are working hard for.
This is another Navy stage. You didn't want to use the adjective Navy for them, but they have been eliminated twice, in the last editions of this competition, and clearly this should be a big one. They're up against Mexico. How much of a threat do the Mexicans carry?
Equally, in the last two editions, they didn't give us so much to be happy about, even though they did something good in the group stage. But this time, they have shown that, they are ready to do what we want. And the Mexicans, yes, they came in strongly, just that they finished off Group B also on 5 points. And so, clearly, they are beatable. And so if we keep our head on and keep focused like this, we should be able to play them. No one is saying it's going to be easy. We're hoping we avoid Japan, and we did just that. And so we can't push Mexico aside just like that. They were coming strongly, knowing that we came up tops from our group, and how they had to draw to be able to make it here. And so they know how difficult it is for them, and so they'll come at us with their A game and everything they have. But I want to believe Coach Evans and his girls should have something up their sleeves to show.
Finally, we've got some interesting games as well. There's Germany, Canada in the Under-17 Women's World Cup. We've got Japan, New Zealand, and the Spain, Korea, DPR.
Surprises if you have powerhouses like Brazil who have been knocked out, US, a lot of people give them some chance and they're also out. Then you know that whoever prepared so well for this tournament.
But we still have Japan, we still have Korea, DPR, we still have Germany.
Japan also qualified in some nice style, and so there we have always applauded them for how they have taken women football in general so seriously. And so yes, those are good games, but I don't know if we can still avoid the Japans and the North Koreans like we want to, because of how they are swift when it comes to their play. And so those are equally good games, but I would wish for maybe Germany to stay, and maybe the Japans and the Koreans should leave, so that we can battle it out on strength.
wishes were horses. You know what? I guess we're right. Thank you very much, Abigail Senatosi, for joining me on the show. And it's good. Good luck to the Black Maidens as they play against Mexico in that quarterfinal. So it's really good. Now time to switch and talk about the Black Queens, shall we now? Because what? Mali's shocked 2-1 defeat of host Ghana. You know, in Cameroon's 3-0 win over Algeria means that all 4 teams in Group A can still qualify ahead of the final round. And we've got games coming up because, you know, the Black Queens are up against Cameroon in a few hours at the Cross Sports Stadium. Now, they definitely know that they are surely at the Kazan.
Bit of a miss there for Ghana, but this time is in! This is spectacular!
They said that man proposes and God disposes. What we anticipated, God knows that only one goal is better for us.
It's Ghana with a goal! Gladys and Phobia get the first goal in the competition!
We fought very hard. The opposition wasn't easy, but we managed to tame them, squandering a number of chances.
And it is against Algeria. What about that strike?
The Malians capitalized on a defensive lapse to see Basiwa Toure get her second goal. The Black Queens fought tooth and nail, pushed as hard as possible, but the resilient Malian defense stood in their way, leaving the game to end 2-1.
How can somebody who has played the match and the referee has done all this to the girls, we have to sack them, say somebody is bankrupt? When we say somebody is tactically bankrupt, it means he was not even able to put the team together. They were playing patternless.
When we lost Tuesday's game, everybody was down. For me, I couldn't even sleep. Cameroonians, they are a very good side. Physically, they are stronger. They are fit than us. But for us, we have the speed, we have the technique, we have everything. I believe that the unexpected happens in football.
Well, that's the official tune of the 2018 Africa Women's Cup of Nations. Now, it could be the last time the Black Queens will hear this at the stadium, of course. A possibility that they could be knocked out of this competition because Cameroon are coming very strong in this one. But, of course, an opportunity as well to qualify. So we've got 3 gentlemen joining me in studio. Nick Carroll, BBC Africa. Nick, how are you doing this afternoon?
Not too bad. Excited for this afternoon's matches. It's all to play for, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. I've got my calculator out and I've been trying to work out
we need that.
Who can go through, who can get knocked out, who needs to do what. It's very complicated, so it's going to be an exciting afternoon.
Yeah, also joining us with a lot of Cameroonian perspective on the show. Injie, joining me on the show. I think I got that right. How you doing?
I'm great. You got that right. That's
yes.
for sure. Excited ahead of today's game. Yes. Fired up and hoping that the Lionesses can get their 3rd consecutive win in the competition and sail through to the semis.
Oh my God, that's a voice Ghanaians don't want to hear this time. Anyway, but you have to deal with it. And my colleague is here with me in the studio, Hans Mensah. How you doing, Hans?
Great, George. Of course, but it hasn't all been rosy for Ghana, but we're expecting that this afternoon the Black Queens are going to come through.
Well, no, if we had a kind of reader here, you could see that the Cameroonians are really feeling confident ahead of this one. But Nick, let me start with you. And it's good, Nick, and you've all been at the competition in 2016 in Cameroon. So it will be good to give us a bit of perspective. We'll get into the Black Queens and all when we're getting to the tail end of the show. So Nick, tell me, in terms of the level of competition, how does Ghana 2018 compare to Cameroon 2016?
I think, unfortunately, I think it's a very similar level, and I don't think that the top teams have come on as far as I would have hoped in terms of the Cameroon, Ghana, and Nigeria especially. Yeah. But I do think that some of the smaller teams, and I think we saw that 2 years ago with the likes of Kenya, and I think this time around the Zambians and the Algerians and Mali especially have come through and shown that they can compete, and those levels have come together a little bit. I think my fear, and I've said this many times, is that in Africa we're getting closer and closer and closer, and there's some great matches, and it's, as we've seen, all 8 teams can still go through or 8 teams can go out.
Yeah.
The big problem for me is that next step up to the world level, the global level. I know the Black Maidens are doing very well at under 17 level, but we've seen that in the men's game as well. That they do well at under 17, under 20. Ghana, Nigeria especially done so well at those levels. It's that step up to the global level, and I think that's where they're falling down. I think, and it's not just the women's game as well. I think the men are struggling as well. I think we've got some great individual African players, men and women. Some teams that should play very well, but I think they get left behind a little bit. And I think that my comparison to the last time is a similar level of competition. I'm just very worried that the 3 teams that go through from here, can they really compete next year in France? And that's, I think, the real level of how far African football has come. I think that, yes, it's getting better slowly, but is it getting better quickly enough to maintain pace with the global teams? And I think that's my big concern.
Big concern. Angel, let's talk about Nigeria, because you had a bit of an opinion on Nigeria at the beginning, and you were like, "Oh, these Falcons don't look as prepared as they were before." And yes, they went to the first game and lost to South Africa by 1-0. But how much have you changed, or how much of your perspective on Nigeria has changed after that emphatic win over Zambia?
Well, it's not changed a lot. I still think that their first real threat was South Africa, and we saw how they performed. They didn't perform great, and even against Zambia 4-0. I think up to about the 70th minute it was 1-0. The Zambian keeper tried as much as possible to keep her team in the competition. Remember that this is a very young Zambian side. In top competitions like this, experience counts, and I think that's where the Nigerians dominated the Zambians. They had that resilience. They knew that their time will come to strike, and they made good use of it. The Zambians, on the other hand, banked more on the youthful exuberance within their team, and they thought that they'd probably get a similar performance like they did against Equatorial Guinea. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I want to see Nigeria perform that way when they're probably playing against Cameroon, against Ghana. I think, unfortunately, they won't get that opportunity to play against Ghana. I think so.
You think so?
But they're not.
So you're
top.
still not convinced? Hans, what did the Nigeria win tell you? Because the thing about Nigeria is, even when they're not playing well, they know how to switch the gears. They know how to produce the result based on what's right in front of them.
Absolutely, and that obviously comes, from experience. They've been there, they've done it, they've seen it all, and so, there are games where you realize that they won't be playing too well, but they will find a way to get the results. He talked about the fact that they were patient, they believed that they were going to get the result, and at the end of the day, they hit top gear when they needed to and got the right results. Nick also made reference to the fact that the top guns, as far as women's football on the continent is concerned, seem to have gotten to a point where they are not developing anymore. They are not stepping up anymore as you'd expect. And, that also sits well with the fact that the smaller teams, Mali, we are seeing, also South Africa especially.
Yes, coming up very strongly.
Exactly. If you look at South Africa from 5 years ago, you can tell clearly the progress that they've made over the last 5 years. And so, are they also going to get to the level of Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, and stay there, or will they get there and step up a bit more? That really is the question. The world level. I think that we need to get to a point where we need to realize that we need to aspire to the level of France, to the United States, to some of those Asian countries,
to Korea, Japan,
exactly.
New Zealand.
We need to get to that point where we have to realize this is the standard. The African standard is not a real standard. It's about the world standard, and so we need to develop further. What is the plan? Is there a plan in the first place?
You know what? Tomorrow there's going to be a bigger discussion on women football. Irrespective of what happens this evening to the Black Queens, a bigger one in over 2 hours with Nathaniel Atto. So we look forward to that. But we keep on with the preview. Let's end with Group B before we come to Group A. How difficult would it be to decide between South Africa and Zambia who should join Nigeria? I think we all go around the table and think Nigeria should be safe and dry.
I think Nigeria will win. They will beat Equatorial Guinea, but even then they still need the other result to go their way as well to make it more comfortable for themselves. I think South Africa are the stronger team. I think they've spent a year preparing. They've played in Sweden, they've played in the Cyprus Cup, they've played in the COSAFA Cup. They've travelled all the way to Chile for friendlies. They've come here and played a friendly as well. So this is, in my mind, this is the only team in this competition, unfortunately, that has had proper preparation for a year. Their aim is the World Cup. They're not. I don't think they're really thinking about the Nations Cup. I think the World Cup is that's what they're here for. And if you look at Zambia, okay, they played in the COSAFA Cup. I know Cameroon went down to the COSAFA Cup and played as a guest team. So there are other teams that have had some preparation, but maybe only in the last few months. Whereas South Africa, I think, are definitely a team that has prepared well. I spoke to Desiree Ellis just now, the coach. She's a very experienced lady. She knows about these competitions. She's
played in them as well.
Played in them, been to many. So she's a very experienced person. And then you add in there that she was explaining to me they've got a pool of 50 women they choose from,
Oh, okay.
50 players that they look at. She said, I had to pick 21, and it was really difficult, but I chose the most versatile because I know that they could move around. So she's got a plan in mind. And then you add in there the experience of some of the older players, especially Janine van Veek, the captain. 156 caps now for South Africa. Yes, she leads the way. And that experience, that's why South Africa, I think, personally, I tipped them from the beginning. But I now, having seen them, I think they do have the ability, the preparation to go maybe all the way, and I think that they're the ones that will go through from that group.
It's looking like Nigeria, South Africa, Nigeria, Zambia in Group B. Let's try and settle what's in Group A right now. And you know what? Anyone can qualify from Group A. But let's zone in now, because I'm sure all the listeners now want to know what to expect at the Accra Sports Stadium. Let's talk about your team, the Cameroonian team now. What would you say is the weakness of the team after watching them over two games?
I think our team, first, the average age of the Cameroonian team is 27.7 years. Okay. So it's not a young team. It's not a young team. It's not a young team. It's an aging squad. And if you're playing against a very fast team and versatile team like we saw the Malians play in the first half, then we'll be in trouble. But also remember that one of our assets is the attacking armada that we've had. We've got very, very fast pace and talented ball jugglers up front. When you've got someone like Njoya Ajara, she's an inform attacker. She's got 17 goals for her team, Sandviken. You've got Gabriela Budiongene, who was the most valuable player 2 years ago, who plays for CSKA Moscow. And then you've got someone like Gailen Ganamwit, who is true, since she won the CAF Player of the Year award in 2015, has had somewhat downward fortunes, but is coming back. I mean, that goal against Algeria may just be the spark that gets her back to her goal-scoring form. And I think Ghanaians they should be cautious in their optimism, because we've seen this Ghanaian team play.
We'll come to Ghana, but I won't stick with that. Another thing I saw about the Cameroonian team, I don't know if my friends have all noted, is that I think they were managing a lot their fitness. They're managing a lot the fact that they don't have the legs to run as much if they come up against a tight team. And we see that in the beginning of games, they're so up there and doing the running. Then they cool off a bit, take it easy. At the end of the half, they do that again. Because against Algeria had some wonderful possession where they could have done something of that.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, we know our weaknesses, and we've tried to work on this, which is when the Cameroonians get the ball, they try to go fast. We try to play from the wings with Njoya Ajara and Gabriela Budiongene. By the way, I'd like to tell you that the first 11 that's going to start today is the same that played against Ghana. Yes, the Gaffer said it yesterday. He's not changing anything. He wants to field in his best 11. And I think that it's somewhat unfortunate for Cameroon, because one of the team's best attackers right now, 21-year-old Michaela Abam, is in the team, but she can't play because she hasn't been cleared yet. She's got dual nationality. She lived in the United States of America, so she's still waiting for FIFA clearance to play for Cameroon. But I think that with time, and there are some talented players in that team, honestly. We've got talent and we've got experience. Do not forget that Cameroon's all-time leading scorer is in this team. That's Madeleine Ngonomani. She's got close to 50 goals for Cameroon. She's 35. She's there. She's not got the youthful legs. You don't expect her to run like a stallion, but give her the ball around the box, she finishes it. So, I mean, today I expect to see a great game from Cameroon, especially knowing that we're going to play probably against Nigeria or South Africa. The Cameroonians want to get a convincing win today and build the morale, going into the next game.
We're thinking about the next game. Whoa. I'll come to Hans. Let's deal with the Ghanaian problem now. But let me take Nick's perspective. You've seen the Black Queens play in this competition. What do you think is the problem?
A little bit of confidence, and I think that's going to be problematic from having lost the last game. So they need to get that confidence back up. They need to know that the crowd is behind them. I think their biggest problem, and I would say that this is also a problem for Cameroon as well, is the last third in and around the box. That there seems to be a sudden breakdown. Both teams, Cameroon and Ghana, play some great football, and then as soon as you get near the box, the pass goes astray. They try and do something too clever, or they're not looking up, or they're not looking around, and I think that is the problem. And I think that in both games, I think Ghana have been very wasteful, and I think that even before the tournament, the coach said that in front of goal they've been wasteful as well. So it's about finding that person who can score the necessary goals, and I think that don't want to say this, but I think it's a bit like the Ghanaian men's team.
Okay.
You seem to lack a real out-and-out striker. I know for the men's, Asamoah Gyan is up there, but when you take Asamoah Gyan away, ever since 2008, I mean, I know Jordan and Dede do well, but they're
come to the rank. Majid Wari is not quite.
But there's just a consistent goal scorer in front of goal all the time that you know that you can that's going to knock in 6, 7, 8 goals, on a regular basis. And I think that's the problem up front for Ghana, for the women's team this time. They've got some people up there, who've had efforts, but tame efforts, not gone in, and I would say that the goals that Ghana have scored have been. I think the goal against Algeria, the goalkeeper was good. It was a good goal, but I think the goalkeeper could have probably done better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that penalty.
Penalty.
A bit questionable, you say?
Very questionable.
Elizabeth went down easy. I'm not saying that it wasn't a penalty, but it's one of those ones that could have gone either way.
Either way. Okay, let me come to you, Hans. Hans, now you have to deal with. And I'm putting this question to you on that. Is it a case of the girls not living up to the billing, or the coach not making good use of the talent in that team?
It's the latter. I mean, and I'll put it bluntly, because if you take the girls individually over 2 games, I don't think that they've been poor. I don't think they've been terrible. I think that the coach hasn't done a good job of combining the material.
I mean, when you say they've not been terrible, you mean individually?
Individually, they've
shown
been
that they
good.
can go about
They've shown that.
But when it comes to organized, they are not organized.
Absolutely. Well, maybe not organized, but I think that the players are not being combined properly to get the best out of them. Now, Nick alluded to the fact that, and he's spot on. It's a Ghanaian problem. We struggle to score goals. Ghana produce a lot of brilliant midfield players who can handle the ball and pass around and move and get into the final third. But we always lack finishes. We've always lacked finishes. It cuts across. I mean, from Colts football through to, youth football, if you like, to the senior game. And so it begs the question, what do you do? What game plan do you adopt? Is it any wonder that the Serbians come in and succeed, if you like, compared to a lot of the Ghanaian coaches? Why? Because they know the sort of players that we produce, and so they map out a strategy that suits the sort of players that we produce. There was a point in time where this phrase became famous in Ghanaian football: 1 goal project, under Milo van Rajovac, because he knew if he doesn't keep it tight, the likelihood is that we're only going to get 1 goal, and so he needs to do everything to protect that 1 goal to ensure that he's winning. My thinking is this: if you've got Grace Asantua, if you've got Elizabeth Ado, if you've got Press Lautry, you need to let those girls control the game in the middle of the pitch, and then just play maybe 1 player up top, because even if you play 2, you are likely to get only 1 goal. So get a strength in the middle of the midfield, ensure that you are controlling the game from the middle of the pitch. Get intelligent players, even if they are not moving forward. Make it difficult for your opponent to gain possession of the ball. And I think that's where Bashir Ford is failing.
And you think he's failing? Okay, Nick.
Yeah, I was just saying, play the game that your players suit, rather than play the game that your fans.
Absolutely.
The fans that
you want the results,
or the ones that you think, or as a coach that you think you should be playing. I mean, Mourinho, in the past has managed to do that. He's the sort of guy who suddenly looks around and says, "Well, actually, my team's not that good at moving forward. Let's use our defence." He's done it. We've seen it many times with coaches in Europe.
Look,
let me hear from you. You don't think the coach has done anything wrong?
No. I want to go back to 2 years ago. Remember, in Cameroon, Ghana, they were pretty lucky, I take, for example, the game they had against Kenya.
Okay.
They got a penalty. It was 1-1. They were leading 2-1. Kenya got a penalty. The referee had blown for a penalty. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, she changed her mind. That decision changed that game. If Kenya had scored that penalty, they would have won, and Ghana would have stepped out of the competition.
So the point is Ghana have been poor all these years.
Yeah, the point is, this is the same style of play we've been seeing from Ghana from the past 2 years. Maybe the coach may have something to do, but I mean, listen, some of these goals played 2 years ago. They should have matured now. They should have had that experience, and they know that in such tournaments, you could play good football in the midfield, but if you can't finish it, you're never going to win. And it's not the coach who's going to tell these players. It's true that Coach Bashi Hereford, and I think he's pretty much arrogant, and maybe that's not worked to his favor. But when you've got certain players, and
they should know. Okay, like Hans, I think I'm trying to get his point. And the point is that, okay, so the ladies do not need to be taught again when to play a pass, when to be sure a player is offside, when you know this player is offside, or when I'm in an offside position, I don't give a ball, I don't run for the ball, or when my colleague is in offside position, I don't pass the ball up. These are little things. When I'm supposed to send in a diagonal pass, I give it. When I'm supposed to square it, when I'm supposed to shoot, when I'm close enough to shoot.
That is all sport on.
And he's talking about little decisions that cannot come in now.
And those problems, you can find it with every single team at this tournament, making those terrible decisions. What the problem is with Ghana is that there isn't a clear game plan. I mean, you tell me, what is the game plan for the Ghanaian team? There's not a clear game plan.
But Nigeria too do not have a game plan. They don't have I'm serious. They don't have a clear game plan.
So Ghana must rely on the talent.
What Ghana is struggling with at this moment is that you are not seeing a team that is clearly communicating the ideas or translating the ideas of a coach on the field of play. Very often you see the girls attacking when they are supposed to hold on to the ball and draw the opposition out and find spacing behind them and exploit that space. And you talk about the final third. When you find teams sitting deep, okay, with no space behind them, it becomes very, very difficult to attack. So you see the pass move from one side of the pitch
to the other. It's a suspicion that the coach has introduced something that didn't have enough time for the girls to absorb.
George, let me put it bluntly. Look, and he talked about Bashi Hereford being arrogant. I don't think he's arrogant. I think that he's a terrible communicator. And you see that in the way the girls are playing. I think he's struggling to communicate his ideas to the girls, and it reflects in the way that they play. And again, I'll come back to the point I made earlier. When Grace Asantua has the ball, you can't tell me she's a terrible player. Okay? When Press Lottery has the ball, you cannot tell me she's a terrible player. But how are you combining these materials to ensure that you are getting the right result? That is the problem.
I've got some 5 minutes to go. Now, I mean, Nick, right? So I'm just wondering, what would you have to say to the Black Queens if you wanted them to win this game? Because the coach will be having it difficult at this point. Do we talk about tactics? Do we talk about what really would you have to say to the Black Queens for what you've seen?
I think it's a very difficult one. I think you've got to go out, enjoy it. I mean, I think that's the key thing to football matches these days. I think they've got to come together as a team. I think that recently, you've been watching teams where they've had good players and a good team spirit. If they've got that team spirit amongst themselves, then they can come through it as well. So you've got to go out there and I guess they're going to have to stick to the game plan that they've been taught, because if they start going away from that game plan, that could cause even more problems. So, I think they've got to go out and try not to feel the pressure on them. And a 2-0 win is what they need, and they can go through with a 2-0 win, whatever happens elsewhere. It's going to be a tough call. I think they've got to go out and enjoy it and try their hardest.
Nick, you've been watching these games over and over again, so let's take your predictions now. In Group B, the two to qualify?
South Africa, Nigeria.
In Group A?
Cameroon, Mali.
I know Cameroon is going to be part of your list in Group A. So who joins in Group A?
Mali.
Group B?
Nigeria and South Africa.
Hans, Group A?
we're all leaving the tournament. Hang on a minute. We don't need to say any more. Hans has done his prediction.
Okay, Hans.
I think Cameroon will go through.
And
I think that Algeria can beat Mali.
Okay.
I do think that Algeria can beat Mali. They can.
So.
And I think Ghana will go through. Somehow Ghana is going
I hope he knows that for Algeria to beat Mali and for Ghana to go through, they've got to hit Mali at least 5-0.
It's okay. Now
I think Ghana will go through.
I'm hoping that we have, Nick, we have you guys back on set before. We're looking at having you tomorrow if it's possible, and then have you again, for the final week where we look at who are likely to make it to the World Cup.
It's going to be interesting. 6 points Mali, 6 points Cameroon, 6 point Ghana.
It's not going to be 6 points. It's going to be 9 and 6.
All right.
Come on.
Ijaz, thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Pleasure so much.
It's really great. And Nick Havel, thank you so much for joining me.
No
I love insight in all of these things. And of course, Hans Andor, thank you so much
Let's see how it goes.
for joining me on the show. We're definitely back next week with some more as we try and put this together. Remember that we're also looking forward to the games this weekend. We are looking forward to those games. And we expect that you go out there and keep supporting your teams. But we have to get to the Accra Sports Stadium. The game is at 3:30. It's at 4 p.m.
4.
Yes, so you have to be at the stadium by 3 p.m. and get ready. We have to push them all the way through. The best we can do for the Black Wings. They've noted that they're going out there to do their very, very best. And, of course, the Black Maidens are in action. We know as well the final race for the year in Formula 1 taking place in Abu Dhabi. Everything has been sorted out really pretty much in this season's Formula 1. We keep an eye on that. And for the NBA fans, next week we'll be in with a big discussion on the Cavaliers. They're having issues, but I dare not forget to tell you the Golden State Warriors as well are having their own kind of issues in that. My name is George Ado Jr. Big thank you to the entire production team for putting this together for us. And we've got that London Derby to savor as well. I couldn't have forgotten that. Remember that tomorrow we come your way with the Sports Link with Nathaniel Ato. Big discussion on women's football there. And then on Sunday, the Sports Arena is on. And we've got a very good game for you as well. There's Arsenal Bournemouth to look forward to. But we'll tell you about the commentary game as we go through that. Because we've got like 3 games to savor there in terms of that from our partners, the BBC. My name is George Ado Jr. Until we meet next week, just be good.